All right, your half-yearly exam has Poets and Pancakes on it tomorrow, and I know this chapter trips up a ton of students. If you're feeling a little lost, it's probably because you're starting with the wrong ideas. So let's replace that anxiety with some solid strategy right now.
Okay, let's just be honest for a second. You thought it was about breakfast, didn't you? Don't worry, you're not alone. That one simple assumption is exactly why so many students stumble. It's not about food, and clearing up that confusion is the very first key to unlocking this whole chapter. And here's the reality check. This quote from the chapter reveals what pancakes really are in Ahsoka Mitron's world. They're not fluffy and delicious. They're the heavy makeup used to transform actors into what he calls hideous crimson-hued monsters. This is your first big clue that the chapter's tone is way more satirical than you thought.
So, to be crystal clear, Pancake was a popular makeup brand caked onto actors at Gemini Studios. The whole chapter is a humorous, satirical look at a film world where this kind of superficial glam exists right alongside some pretty clueless political ideas. Understanding that contrast is everything. It's exactly the kind of nuance your half-yearly exam is designed to test. First things first, we're going to break down the world of Gemini Studios. We'll be focusing on the hierarchy, the real talent, and of course, the frustrations that fuel all the main conflicts. So, try to picture it. We're in 1950s Madras. Our narrator, Ahsoka Mitron, is sitting in this little cubicle, and his job is literally just cutting up newspaper clippings. This spot gives him the perfect fly-on-the-wall perspective to see all the absurd things happening at the studio, especially the crazy social ladder in the makeup department upstairs.
And wow, what a hierarchy it is. You've got the chief makeup artist, who only touches the stars. His senior assistant gets the supporting roles. A junior assistant handles the rest. And way down at the bottom of the food chain, the office boy, whose job is to just slather makeup on the crowd extras. Now, this isn't just about who's putting on makeup. It's a brilliant satire on social structures. And trust me, this exact setup has been a favorite for exam questions from 2022 to 2024.
Okay, the main conflict really boils down to two characters who are complete opposites, Kothamangalam Subu and the office boy. Subu is this brilliant, multi-talented guy who is super loyal to the boss. He can dream up entire movie scenes on the spot, like a rat fighting a tigress underwater. Then you have the office boy, who dreamed of being a writer but is now stuck, completely frustrated, and he blames Subu for every single one of his problems. Subu's position as the official number 2 is so important. It gives him a ton of power and influence, but it also makes him the perfect target for all of the office boy's resentment. You can absolutely expect a question like, why was the office boy frustrated? Or why was Subu considered number 2? Examiners want to see that you get this character dynamic. So we've covered the pancakes. Now let's get to the poets. This part of the chapter really dives into the satire on political ignorance and the cultural confusion that was rampant at the studio. So, how do the poets at the studio see communism? Well, this definition tells you everything you need to know. To them, a communist is basically a monster, a godless man with no love for his family. They have this incredibly simple black and white view, and because of it, they blindly host all these anti-communist plays without having a clue about the real politics behind them. And all this ignorance really comes to a head when a mysterious English editor shows up. Nobody knows who he is or why on earth he's there. His visit becomes this central moment that highlights just how much miscommunication is happening. You know, the narrator only figures out who he was years later by accident. The whole visit was a total mystery for a few key reasons. First, nobody could understand his thick English accent. Second, his speech was full of these abstract ideas like freedom and democracy that just went over everyone's heads. And finally, the biggest question of all, why is an English poet even here at a Tamil film studio, was never really answered. Now, for your exam, the key is to explain why it was a mystery, not necessarily what the final reveal was. Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's decode the exam paper itself. What do the examiners actually want to see on your answer sheet for this chapter? Listen up, because this is pure gold. For the big 6-mark extract question, exam papers tend to recycle the same 3 passages you see here. The one about the makeup hierarchy, the one about the office boy's jealousy of Subu, and the one with that naive definition of a communist. Think of these as your thematic anchors. Your job is to practice analyzing the tone, the satire, and the character motivations within these specific quotes.
And this chart just hammers that point home. It shows you exactly where to focus your revision. Questions almost always circle back to one of these three core themes: the studio hierarchy, the political cluelessness, and the character foils. If you master these, you've pretty much mastered the chapter for your exam.
So, these are the questions you can probably expect to see. Notice how they link directly back to the themes and extracts we've just covered? Go ahead and prepare some solid answers for these four, and you'll walk into that exam feeling ready. All right, let's talk about your final game plan. If you're doing some last-minute revision and need some quick ways to remember the key ideas, these memory triggers are exactly what you need. Think of these as your mental shortcuts. Crimson monsters, that should instantly make you think of the pancake makeup and the whole hierarchy in that room. Sabu vs. Boy, that's your shorthand for the genius versus frustration character dynamic. And Godless Man, that's your keyword for the theme of naive anti-communism. Just repeat these in your head and try to link each one back to a specific quote. And hey, don't throw away easy marks. Vocabulary words like ignominy, which describes how the office boy feels, or sycophant, which is basically what people called Sabu, are perfect for multiple choice questions. Knowing what these mean could snag you a few extra points. And here it is, probably the single most important strategy for tomorrow. Your half-yearly exam is testing what we call vertical knowledge. That means they want to see a deep understanding of this chapter, and this chapter alone. What happens, who feels what, and why. They do not expect you to compare it to other texts. That's for the annual exams later. For now, just focus on mastering these basics. So remember where we started. Your anxiety probably came from that simple assumption that this chapter was about breakfast. But now, look at you. You have a solid strategy built on key themes, critical quotes, and the most likely questions. And that right there is the difference between feeling anxious and feeling confident. I'll leave you with this one last thing to think about. The office boy was convinced Subu's success was totally unfair, but was it really just about his talent and loyalty? Or did his privilege as a Brahmin have something to do with it? The chapter gives us some clues, but the answer isn't simple, just like the world Ahsoka Tran was satirizing. You've totally got this. Stay calm, remember your triggers, and go tackle that paper.